Welcome back to the JustBeCos podcast. It's me, your boy, Jeremy. We're back again. And as you know, this is a podcast all about cosplay and about life. We're transitioning into things. And hooray, we've hit episode 50. So everyone gives a clap. You guys can clap. It's fine. Excellent. Okay, so our very special guest. This is going to be the last episode of season 2. After this, we're going to make a few changes. I'll tell you about that soon. But Season 2, we've got the very last guest of the season. You might have seen them around conventions around the country. They're booming, they're doing their best, they say they're a small business, but I think they're making their way places. Please welcome everybody to the show. We have Illustris Models, we have Shin and Laith. Welcome, guys.
Hey.
Okay, so let's get this started. For anyone who doesn't know Illustris Models, they would be living under a rock if you're from Australia, because you guys have been popping up everywhere. But for those of us listening in who don't know who you are, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Me. We are Illustris Models and 3D printing. We are a small cosplay business based in Sydney, New South Wales, and we specialize in 3D modeling and printing specifically for cosplay. So we do props, we do accessory kits, we also do blueprints, notebooks, and we do a lot of conventions and stalls and sponsorships and everything. We're really passionate about making cosplay accessible, especially to Australians.
Okay, accessible's the big key here. Now, we'll go into the history of how this all started and where it's going and all that kind of thing, but you guys are both cosplayers yourselves, obviously. So the big question is, what made you want to do 3D printing particularly over any other kind of, medium? So as wigs or, making costumes themselves. What made you decide to focus on 3D printing itself?
I think it's quite different for each of us. I kind of fell into this accidentally. But Laith was into 3D printing before.
Yeah, I started 3D printing back in 2016, 2017, just because I thought it was neat.
Yeah.
Then when my mate roped me into cosplay, he wanted to do a set of Goblin Slayer armor, and we're like, well, we can play around with 3D printing it all. So we grabbed a couple of printers, and we just started playing around, doing it alongside foam work and stuff as well. So it was never exclusively pursuing one medium. It was just seeing how it worked with cosplay after we'd been doing it for a couple of years.
Okay, and in the market so far, how's business as an overall general thing? Is this a full-time thing for you guys? Is this a on the side hustle kind of thing?
Yeah. So it was a side hustle. The business, I started it in 2019. I bought Laith on in 2020.
Yeah.
And then we are full-time as of April last year.
Wow, congratulations. That's really cool. Now, you guys are obviously cosplayers in your own right as well. You've been doing cosplay since when?
I've been doing it since 2018, so I'm fairly... 2018 or 2019? 2018, I think. Yes. So I'm still fairly new because,
the COVID time.
Yeah, COVID kind of nuked 2 years of my life.
Yep.
So I'm still very much learning
baby cosplay.
A lot of skills as I'm going.
Okay.
But Shin's been going for a lot longer than I have.
Yeah, I think I started in 2014, so happy 10 years to me, I guess.
Wow, congratulations, that's cool. Okay, so this whole business plan, obviously something that you both fell into, and Laith, you started cosplay kind of on the side. Is that how you guys met, kind of doing cosplay, or was it kind of separate?
Yeah, so it's actually a kind of funny story. You're from Brisbane, so I don't know if you know, but there's a photographer in New South Wales, in Sydney, called Magic Missile Studios.
I've heard of him, yes.
So he used to religiously do what he'd call flash mist photos at Sydney Supernova.
Okay.
So it's where he'd wait until it gets dark, and then he'd have a water spray,
right,
and set the flash up behind it, and it would make your pictures look all sparkly.
I vaguely remember something like that. Yeah. Okay.
And so it was 2019. Getting a flash mist photo with Magic Missiles was my baby cosplayer dream.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Supernova, and I'd done Twilight Princess Zelda, and she was my dream cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, one thing I need to do this weekend is get that flash mist photo, my dream cosplay with my dream photo. I got to do it. And I'm there, And then my friend Easty 50 Face Jace was there waiting for a photo too. So I start yapping to him, and he's yapping to this really cool, intimidating guy in armor with a really big sword.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh my god, he's really intimidating, but he's really cool. He's so talented. And then I go and get my photo and I like leave. But we had a bit of a yap, and I did not realize until years later when we'd re-met and started dating that was actually Laith.
Right. So you got your dream photo, your dream cosplay, and your dream boy all in like the one day. That's a pretty cool story. I love that.
No,
Okay.
it's pretty funny because the only reason I was there is because Thomas had spied me from like across the field as I was coming back from the car and yelled at me to come over. Like,
So it's all Thomas.
yeah. So that was actually, I think, the first convention I'd cosplayed to.
Yeah,
And
your
Guts
first
was
cosplay?
my first cosplay.
Wow. First cosplay, and just like, wow, he's so talented.
Yeah,
Look at
and I'm
this.
just like, I don't know shit. I'm still very much learning.
I'm like, oh my god, look at this cool guy.
Yeah.
He must be like really big, talented cosplayer, and he's just like, I'm baby.
We catfished each other.
Nice.
That's the moral of the
Nice.
story.
So did you guys connect over COVID, or did you guys kind of start dating after COVID? What was the deal there?
So we...
It was just pre-COVID.
Yeah, well,
Just
no, it was
before-
the you started the Fire Emblem group, the Three Houses group, and that's when we started chatting.
Yeah. So I was organizing a big group for Fire Emblem Three Houses that never happened because of COVID.
Mhm.
And we made a Discord, and everyone was yapping in there, and that's where me and Laith really started talking more. At which point, I still didn't realize he was the cool guy from Flash Mist
Right.
photos. But yeah, and then at the beginning of 2020,
Yeah, it was
you came to. So I was the vice president for a cosplay society at the University of Wollongong,
Mhm.
and with the video game society, we were running like a 24-hour LAN with a cosplay contest thing, and Laith came down to Wollongong for that. And that was the first time since Flash Mist where we like actually met again in person.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, all right, we kind of meet, you exchange some glances. I'm like, oh, all right, I see. And then you slid into the DMs on Discord secretly, not knowing that she can make the connection. And then
No,
all of
not
a
at all.
sudden, so at the Wollongong event, is that where you kind of put two and two together? It's like, oh, it's the same guy. Is that kind of what
No.
it was? Or?
No,
You still
she
didn't know?
actually realize until after we started dating,
Right.
where I brought up the Flash Mist, and she was like, "Wait a minute, what?"
It's that guy.
Like, I just had no idea.
Yeah, no, she's
So-
clueless.
Nice. It all fell into place, and look at us now.
Exactly.
That's great. What a great story. Oh dear. Now, just a quick side question: are either of you competitive cosplayers? Is that something you've done competitions for? It's you kind of just do it for fun, or it's like because it's a business now. It's like, oh look, it's not really our focus. What's the kind of go there?
I haven't done any comps, but I do really want to get my skills to a point where I can compete.
Cool.
But it's the good old imposter syndrome.
No,
Getting
of course.
to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm happy with something
Yeah.
enough to compete in. But it's definitely a time thing between like having the time to work on a big build alongside running the business.
Yeah.
It's a funky time management thing, which I
Yeah.
want to get over.
That's fair enough. And you, Shin?
I entered a handful of comps here and there. So with my Twilight Princess Zelda, I entered. Bernina was running like an online competition.
Right.
And it was the first and last time they ever ran it. I'm pretty sure it was overseen by Vampria,
Right.
who went to France with JustBeCos this year.
Yeah.
I was competing against people like Ulrich's Workshop, who judges WCS,
Yeah.
and Emerald L. King, who is who went to WCS.
Yep.
So like completely out of my league. So I competed in that, and through that, I think that's what it was. I got nominated for the Oceanic Esports cosplay competition,
Hell
which
yeah.
was like another online thing. Yeah, it was that same year, so I assume that's where they found me.
Right.
I have no idea. And then I competed in a lot of smaller comps. So Wollongong Libraries run their own little convention called Comic Gong. So for a handful of years, me and a bunch of friends would always enter the group cosplay. as the Cosplay Society from UOW there. We were reigning champions for like 4 years in a row.
Wow.
And then I also entered Zelda into their big comp a couple years later and did win that one.
Okay.
And then, yeah, last year I braved AusCC champs for Sydney.
Nice. What was that experience like?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
It was weird. It's interesting. It was the first time I'd done like a big comp, right? So, and it wasn't a cosplay that I'd made specifically to enter. And I think that's a very important thing to note because, as you're probably aware, competitive cosplay is a very different environment to just regular cosplay.
Absolutely.
And I think it's very important to like be aware of what the competition is looking for and kind of gear your cosplay towards that rather than just entering with any like really cool cosplay you have, right? Like they've got criteria there. So like it was a good cosplay and it was clean, but it obviously wasn't the vibe they were going for champs level.
Yeah.
But it's all a learning experience, and I have a bit of a better idea with what I want to do when I enter next time.
Ooh, is that going to come up soon, you reckon? Is that going to be like you both enter something? What's on the cards for you both?
Oh, we'd enter separately.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Interesting. Okay. The reason I went into the competitive thing as a kind of a different topic and a right angle is because as owners of a business where you do 3D printing, you can see where this is leading. What's your viewpoint on using 3D printing in competitions, particularly as, you know, people who are cosplayers yourselves and also as a business who does 3D printing? So what's kind of like your viewpoint on using it in competitions?
I think it's perfectly fine because like there are so many. So besides just the printing of the model, there is so much technique and work to go into getting the prop to a finished state.
Okay.
To a state where it looks really, really clean. You can't see the layer lines, you can't see the seam lines, and getting it to, you know, look the part.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as hitting print with your colored filament and then gluing it together and it being done, correct? So there is a lot of work that goes into it, and there's so much technique that you can put in to the finishing process with weathering, with adding battle damage and stuff. You can really manipulate it a lot after it's printed as well.
Right.
I think the important thing to note when entering it in a comp is whether you've modeled it or not.
Right.
So we do all of our 3D modeling in house. So if you're entering a prop into a comp that you've just purchased the files for, there are some points you're not going to earn there because you haven't done the modeling.
Right.
You can make up for it with your finishing and painting and stuff. But at the end of the day, I suspect there'd be some points lost for not doing the modeling aspect of it all. But on the flip side, if you were to model it from scratch, go through the printing process and finishing it, then there is still a lot to judge there technique-wise, because there's a lot you can analyze from a judge's perspective.
What do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about 3D printing? Because I think for a lot of people, the thought is like, oh, 3D printing, that's like, oh, here's a weapon, press boop, and it's printed. Like, what's the misconception that people have about printing? Like, what's the, I guess, the finesse or the skill that goes into printing versus, I don't know, making it out of foam or wood or something? What's kind of the thing that people get wrong, you think?
Yeah, it's definitely not as easy as just grabbing a file off the internet and clicking the go button.
Yeah.
Like, God, some days I really wish it was that easy. So like, yeah, at the end of the day, you're just pumping a file into a machine and the machine's making the thing. But 3D printers work in very specific ways. And it's really interesting because we work out of our garage, right? So every now and then we'll have people over for dinner and they'll be like, oh, can I go see the printers?
Yep.
So we take them into the printer room, and the questions people ask when they first see the printers going are really interesting because, like, it's knowledge that we don't, like, comprehend that other people don't have because we're around it all the time.
Yeah.
So the other month we had a friend go in and they were like, so what's all the squiggly stuff it's printing around the thing? Right. Because 3D printers can't print on air.
Yeah.
But some pieces have floating pieces, right? So they need to print support material to then be able to print the floating sections.
Yeah.
And sometimes the way you orient the prints on the bed really depends if they're gonna like survive or fail, and really depends on like how clean the print then is once you take all the supports away and stuff. And that's really just a crumb of the knowledge, right? I think it's very easy, well, not very easy, but it's quite easy to 3D print, but it's very different to be able to consistently 3D print cleanly.
Right. Interesting.
And I think the other part of the knowledge that people often forget is your machine knowledge as well, right?
Yeah.
So like the environment for getting into 3D printing now is very, very different from when we both started. There's a lot more processes now that are automated, but there was so much more like maintenance you needed to do, leveling your bed, making sure your gantry was trimmed and stuff to make sure your prints succeed. Granted, it's not knowledge that is needed as much now with the rise of like the bamboo 3D printers that are extremely reliable and fast. But there is still some level of machine knowledge that you need to have, right? You need to know how to repair the machine when it breaks, over just, plugging $900 and buying a new one, right? But so many like artifacts on your prints and stuff are caused by mechanical problems with the machine, like your belts being loose or something. And these are all things that you'll only really learn by doing. And I think that's a thing that's very much overlooked by the cosplay community as a whole when they're looking at a 3D printed prop, because they're only seeing the final product.
Yeah.
They're not seeing the 10 other attempts that ended up in the bin.
Yeah, right.
Because of random little issues that occurred. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's a nice little background to 3D printing and the complexities of it, I suppose. Now, let's talk business for a bit, because I know you guys mentioned it before about, you want to be making cosplay and 3D prints and props and stuff like that accessible. And, you're a business that's gone from the ground up from, oh, this is a good idea, to it's like, oh, let's turn this into a nice little side hustle, to it's become a full-time thing. And for a lot of cosplayers, I think it is the ongoing pursuit to try and figure out a way that they can make consistent money with it while keeping their clothes on, for most people. And no disrespect to anyone who does take their clothes off for it, because I think that's very valid as well. But just kind of try to find another way to, utilize whatever you can to make your hobby into a full-time thing. And you guys have obviously managed to do that. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. Like you said, you started cosplay in more recent years. Shin, you've been in a bit longer. When was the very first time that you thought, hey, this could become a thing? This could become like a little business project, and you decide to dip your toes in the water. When was that kind of initial thought?
So like the first thing I ever 3D modeled was, again, for my Twilight Princess Zelda costume. It wasn't a prop, it wasn't an accessory or anything major. It was just like a tiny little thing that sat here on the pauldrons that connected the pauldrons to like 3 dangles.
Yeah.
And my dad, he's like he works at Komatsu, and he's done some engineering stuff. So he vaguely knew how to 3D model, and he gave me like a 15-minute crash course. We whipped up this thing and we threw it on my brother's 3D printer. And I thought that'd be the end of it, right? I was like, cool, I modeled a thing. I got the thing for my outfit. That's all I need. Probably never going to touch this thing again.
Yeah.
And then this really does all come full circle. Because then I started organizing the Fire Emblem Three Houses group.
Yep.
And for Fire Emblem Three Houses, they've all got weird little brooches and stuff all on their uniforms. And at the time, like the only way to get them made was this company in the US, absolutely love them to death, called the Dangerous Ladies. They're not US, they're Canada based. Sorry. And to ship them to Australia was like ridiculous money.
Yeah.
And when they were like, we were pushing 30 people in this group, right? So that shipping is going to rack up really, really quickly. And then the people in this group were all over Australia. So we'd get the shipping from Canada and then shipping to then
send it out. Yeah.
Like everywhere else. And it was just not really viable for everyone at the time, right? And we're all like, oh, what do we do about these things? And I was like, well, my brother has a 3D printer and my dad knows how to 3D model. So maybe I can mess around and model some up and print them for everyone.
Okay.
And again, I thought that's all it would be. And then from there, people just kind of, because we had like the Discord server for the group. And then because I did that for people, I set up like a little store MV or something at the time so people could just grab it. And it was easier to keep track. And yeah, from there, people would just be like, oh, I've got this other cosplay I want to do. Would you be able to model a little thing for this one? And we're like, yeah, sure, of course I can do it. Absolutely out of my depth.
Yeah, right.
Like very quickly. So yeah, I really started with like small little accessory pieces. And then eventually I was like, okay, I want to do some props. And so the first prop I ever properly modeled was the Master Sword from Breath of the Wild.
Right.
And then I think somebody dared me to do Mipha's trident from Breath of the Wild, which is pretty involved. And it terrified me, but I did it. And then I just kept doing more props and things to like challenge myself. So a lot of my early stuff was just Breath of the Wild.
Wow.
I was going through like the weapons list in Breath of the Wild in the creating a champion book that just has like spreads and spreads of the weapon. I was kind of just ticking them off. And then when I got Laith involved was when I think I had 3 people order 3 of the big Breath of the Wild props off my website at the same time. And I had...
Yeah, it was the Royal Halberd. That was the first
Royal
prop
Halberd.
we sold.
Right.
Yeah, and I had 2 tiny printers that were actually my brother's that I had to use between when my brother was using them.
Yeah.
Right.
But Laith had offered in passing before that he's got 2 big printers in his garage that barely get used. So if I ever need help...
was this before you were dating, or was this after you were dating?
This was before, I think.
I think the offer was before.
Yeah, the offer was before, and then,
I think we were probably dating by the time I, like, asked you to follow up on the offer.
Right. I was like, that's a nice way to be like, by the way, if you ever need any help, I've got 2 printers, so, you know, if you want to hang out sometime, it's not bad. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, it was all, like, the us meeting and the business growing, it was all very, like, close together.
Yeah.
And the progression is very, like, weird. It all happened very quickly.
Okay, so by that stage, you know, you'd started to have people asking you, oh, can you make this? Can you make this? And were you at the time already saying, oh, cool, like, that's fine, I'm happy to do it, just it'll be like a little fee for me to make it as a commission, right? At what point in time did you think to yourself, oh, this is actually, I'm getting, you know, ongoing commissions that I should probably work part-time instead of, you know, full-time somewhere, and I want to work on this business. Was that like a decision that you made, or it was kind of just something that you picked up?
I was only working casually at the time, so it was never me like having to drop work. Laith actually, because I was doing, when people were requesting these, I was modeling them for free, and they'd only pay when they ordered them off the website.
Right.
Bringing Laith on was really where I started to be bullied. To get paid for my time.
Right.
And it took me a very long time to, I guess, like process or accept that I should be getting paid for my time.
Yep.
And even now, there's still times where I'm like, oh, this model is probably only like XYZ worth money, and Laith will turn around and be like,
no. No, Shin had a big history of undercharging.
Right.
Because like when you're learning, you don't really know like what your time is worth.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
It's very much a thing you need to learn as you go, and the worst thing you'd want to do is to charge someone ridiculous money for a prop, and then they get it and they're like, this wasn't worth the money, right?
Yeah.
So the early days was very much a lot of either free or undercharged work.
I think it's a very common thing that people do when they first start a business.
Yeah.
You kind of underestimate, because, you know, you're not used to making your own money. So when you do charge something, you're like, oh, do I deserve this? Like, is my time or my experience worth this? Because I've never done it before. And
like, would I pay X amount of money for this?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't, but somebody should, kind of. It's a really weird...
It's a weird dynamic, yeah. I mean, like you sound like you've done some kind of background in sales or business before. Is that Or you
No, my background's in game development.
Right. Interesting.
So like we did learn a lot of like business and marketing stuff in the course, but like never to the same kind of degree. We never learned how to like price a product, because like in game development, that's very much one of the last things you think about when your game is.
Yeah, and of course, because you're there to make the games. You're not there to learn
it's
how to
a
marketing.
completely different environment to this. I don't know. I just said what made sense in my brain. If that makes
I'm
sense.
glad. Well, that's correct. First of all, as a fellow businessman, like that's correct. So at what stage then did it become like, oh, cool, like we're charging people, and you decided I don't need my casual job anymore. I'm gonna just gonna go all
I
in.
think when it hit was we both after COVID or just coming out of COVID. Because we both like lost our casual jobs.
Yep.
We ended up getting jobs at a 3D printer retail company.
Cool.
In like North Sydney.
Yeah.
And I'd started there. And it was around then that we really noticed things ramping up. And I'd started on 3 days a week. Then they put me up to 4 or 5.
Right.
And we were just really struggling to like keep up with the store things. So they really wanted me to go full time, and I had to hit them with a no, actually.
I'm gonna quit.
I need to drop.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, no, it was never a quit actually.
Yeah, right.
It was, I think I need to drop down to 3 days. So I did that. But like they were aware we ran this business. Like when we were interviewing, we were like, we have this business, and ultimately, it was kind of common knowledge that we were only there temporarily, and
Right.
if there was an opportunity to drop things and go and run our business, we would take it. So yeah, there was a point where I was like, we were making ourselves more valuable within that company, and then they wanted us to work more, but then we were like, we can't actually do both.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately the company was going through really hard times, and we both ended up being laid off.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so in March last year.
Yeah. So going full time was very much a bit of a forced thing. So after being laid off, we were just putting as much into the business as possible. I think you made a decision to go full time a lot quicker than I did.
Well, yeah, because we got like a bit of severance pay. So I think we planned out how long it would like last us comfortably, and I think I initially gave myself a month.
Right.
I was like, I will give myself a month full time just to work on the business. After that, I'll start applying for jobs.
Right.
If it's not going well.
Okay.
And if it's going well,
We'll go for another month.
give myself another month.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And it was going really, really well. It was just before the new Zelda game came out.
Right.
And honestly, like, no word of a lie, the Zelda game is really... Tears of the Kingdom is what made us go full-time.
Wow. Thank you, Zelda. Thank you, Nintendo, for releasing such a great product.
Yeah, I think if Tears of the Kingdom didn't release last year, we would not have had the income or the drive to... Because, like, we really enjoyed the jobs we had at the retail company.
Yeah.
So, like, there was a weird morning period, right, where it was like, I'm really excited at the possibility of taking this full time, but I also really, really enjoyed that job, and I'm sad I don't have that job anymore. But yeah, the scariest moment was actually when I got accepted for another job.
Wow.
And I said no.
Interesting. So while you were doing your own stuff full time, you said, look, I'll give it a month or so before I start applying for jobs. So by the sounds of it, on the side, it's like, oh, I'll slip a job application here and there.
Yeah. So that was really the major turning point for me, was turning that job down, because it was like an event coordinator and for Dementia Australia.
Yep.
So like would be very stable work, very stable income, like a pretty important job as well. So turning that down for like the potential instability that our business would be was really hard for me. And there was a time where my parents called and were like, oh, how's the job apps going?
Yep.
And I had to tell them that I turned a job down. And I was like, I'm sorry.
But they were very supportive.
Yeah, they at the
That's
end of the
really
day,
cool.
they were like, look, if that's what you want to do and you're confident that you can do it safely,
Yeah.
then go ahead, right? It took Laith a lot longer.
Yeah. For me, it took a lot longer to come to terms with what I wanted to do, because I was applying for jobs like left, right, and center, but I just wasn't really getting anything. Like my heart really wasn't in it, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And I had a few chats with my sister about it, and then she basically hit me with the, look, I can't really believe you when you say you're looking for these jobs. If you're applying for as many, you would have got one by now. Like, I think you're really afraid of failure. I think you really need to just pick something and just put like your all into it and just see where it takes you. And that was really what pushed me to be like, okay, I'm going to see where this business goes then. Because absolute worst case, if it fails, I'm just back to applying for jobs again.
Yeah.
So that's what really pushed me to put my all into it. And this was like 2-3 months after we lost our jobs originally. So that's what really pushed me to be like, okay, no, I'm going to pursue this and see where it goes.
Yeah. And I think to a point you were scared of telling your sister as well.
That too. Because like they knew that I was really, really enjoying doing the business and stuff. But again, the heart's not fully into it because I was afraid of like the failure of it.
Yeah.
If it went bad, that accountability, right? And then Shin just hit me with the give it a month, see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, apply for jobs. So then I went down the same rabbit hole that Shin went through 3 months earlier, and then it got to a point where it was stable enough.
Well, by that point, we'd been doing it long enough that we were like, literally just wasting time.
Yeah,
applying for jobs. You could be helping me and helping me with these commissions.
Because that was the other thing, right? Because I was running the business and applying for jobs. It's like I could only put half my effort into one of them. I couldn't put all my effort into one of them. So dropping one half and putting all the effort into the other, really,
And then in the end, when you told your sister you were going to do this full time, she was like, good.
Yeah.
Good. I think it was happy. Like, you made a decision. Good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Now,
literally, I'm pretty sure those were the words.
3D printing as both as an activity and as a job, as what you guys do, and you know, you're putting yourself out there to conventions, to businesses, to cosplayers around the place. Is that something that you've found from day one since you first discovered it? It's like, wow, this form of making cosplay, I love it. Like, I'm super passionate about it. Passion's the big word here. Would you say, like, yes, this is my passion, or do you feel like it's something that you kind of fell into and you've found yourself liking it more the more you do it? Or is it something that you've kind of inherently always liked? How do you feel about it as such?
I think for me, it's a bit of both, right? Because, like, the degree I did at uni was English literature and creative writing.
Very studious.
So completely removed from what I now do. And as the business was ramping up, I'd started doing a master's in book publishing at UCID. Because, you know, that was what I thought I wanted to do. And then starting that while the business was actually getting quite successful in its like mid to early days, it really made me realize, because like I'd go to the first classes and they'd be like, oh, tell us a bit about yourself, and my brain would be like, oh my god, I can tell them about my 3D printing.
right.
And then like no one would be as interested in it as I was, right? And I was like, oh, no one cares. But like it's a completely different environment, right? These guys are here to sell books. They don't care about my silly little robot machines. And I think it was really that made me realize that I've actually really lost my passion for that, and that this was like my newfound one. Yeah. And that was definitely part of what made me be like, no, this is what I want to do.
I think you bring up a really good point about just what you like. If someone asks you, you know, tell us a bit about yourself, like what are you into, what do you do? And I think the first thing that comes to your mind, or the first thing that you want to tell them about, I think that to me is like, okay, that's what you're really into.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you go to for example, I work part-time in a call center, and that's just kind of what's paying the bills while I'm doing my side hustles, which is coaching and doing this podcast and all this other kind of stuff. And first thing someone asked me is, oh, how was your weekend? What'd you get up to? It's like, oh, I was coaching this guy. I was working on this video, doing all these things. And, the more you kind of think about it, the more you say to people in your day-to-day, what do you like doing? Or what do you think about when you fall asleep at night? The first thing that comes out of your mouth, I think that's where you should be. But, you probably talk to people and it's like, oh, what do you get up to? And they're like, oh, not much. I go out on the weekend or blah, blah, blah. To me, I don't think those people have found their passion yet. Or I don't think they really know what they're interested in. So that's kind of why they're doing what they're doing, I suppose. But I think it's a really good sign. And I'm glad you saw it yourself too, that the first thing that you said when they said, oh, what are you into? It's like, oh, 3D printing and this. Like, that's what I should be doing. Is that something you kind of realize? Like, on the spot, you're like, oh, this is what I should be doing instead of book publishing.
Yeah.
Was it similar like that for you, Laith, as well? Or did you kind of just fall into doing something that you're passionate about? Or
I more fell into it and, like, grew into a passion the more I did. Because, like, it does align in a way with game development in terms of, like, the modeling side of things and the art side of things.
Yeah.
So it was pretty easy for me to pivot because I wasn't really going from a writing degree into more of a creative field. I was going from a creative field into a creative field, right?
Yeah.
And I've always been someone to have multiple hobbies at the same time. I used to have more hobbies than classes I studied at uni.
Yeah.
So it very much just grew over time, and I think I've gotten more and more passionate about it the more I've done.
Okay.
Because, like, now I do so many different spreadsheets, and I'm now doing a lot more modeling and playing with the printers. Like, with printing, I started with, like, the tinkering side of things. So, like, because I worked in, like, repairs and stuff. So I always had, like, a passion for building things, right? And that's inevitably what got me into game development as well, is just the idea of building something just in, like, a digital space, right? So I think anything that really, like, captures that little aspect of creating, I just like, yeah, cool, this is sick.
Nice, it tickles your fancy. Actually, you bring up a very interesting point as well, because I know for myself and even my partner as well, you reach a crossroad and you're like, oh god, what am I doing with my life? I've got XYZ interests, I've got ABC hobbies, I kind of am interested in all these different things, but what should I do? For you both, what do you think would you kind of advice you would give to somebody who was like, look, I'm stuck on the fence between these interests, and you've obviously made the decision to say, I'm going to go all in on this particular one. Was there a particular factor? Obviously, money's a factor, absolutely. But was there any other kind of thoughts or feelings around saying, look, I'm going to put all of these other interests that I have or I've had and put them to the side and say, I'm going to go all in on this one thing? Was there anything that kind of made you come to that very resolute decision to do that?
I think ultimately, like, money is one aspect, but I always feel like if you're doing something just for the money, your passion's not going to be there, right? At the end of the day, you can get money from anywhere, really. Like, if you want money, it's not hard to get. I know that sounds a bit weird, but, like, if
you're just after money, you can go shelf stack at Coles.
Or you can work a barista job or whatever, and there's no shame in doing any of those things. But, like, what drives you to do it needs to ultimately be more than money, right? So I think for me is the community aspect, like growing the Australian community and being part of the Australian cosplay community is an awesome thing. Like, it's so receptive, there's so much going on, and there's so much talent there, and being able to enable people to make their, like, dream cosplays and things is a really, really rewarding aspect. And I think that's ultimately what drives me to keep on going. Okay. Like, even when the money's not good, I'm like, okay, but we can be making this really cool thing for people, right? And yeah, I think that's the main thing for me, is the community side. Yeah. That really pushes me to keep doing it.
Okay. Is that the same for you, Shin, or you got other drivers?
Yeah, I think so. So I mentioned previously that for a little while I was running the UOW Cosplay Society while I was studying. And initially with the Cosplay Society, I didn't want to join.
Right. You got pulled in.
Yeah. So I wasn't really super interested. Like, I was cosplaying, but, like, casually, right? And then my sister, who's a year older than me, she really wanted to join the Cosplay Society.
Okay.
But she was too scared to go to like the initiation, like first meeting, orientation meeting on her own. So I was like, okay.
Initiation,
okay,
they have to like burn you with a hot glue gun. You have to like cover yourself in foam. Okay, and so that kind of helped you join with your sisters.
Yeah, so I ended up going, and then 2 years later, I'm vice president and running the thing. But that the Cosplay Society was really important to me because coming out of high school, I was like pretty shy, right? I was pretty quiet, pretty reserved. And it was really, the people at the Cosplay Society really, they were just really good at being helpful, not bringing you down. Like, they just really wanted to see everyone grow, and they're really good at hyping everyone up.
That's cool.
Right. And I think that's a really important thing as a cosplayer or any hobbyist of anything, really, to have. And like, ultimately, I wouldn't have started the business or started the Fire Emblem group that led to me starting the business if I hadn't had these experiences with the Cosplay Society. And yeah, just that community aspect of that was really, really important to me, and something I really wanted to then give to other people. So when I was trying to figure out, if I wanted to do book publishing or if I wanted to kind of pursue this or what, it was definitely an aspect. I was like, I'm going to have more like community involvement and engagement and just like enrichment in my enclosure, I guess, if I go with this instead. And yeah, ultimately, like, now we've been doing this full time for about 18 months. We definitely find that the quiet period from like November to March, when we don't have cons, like, we feel it, right? We'll get more like a bit burnt out. We'll be more down and stuff. But as soon as con season kicks back in, like, it's stressful as hell, but it's also so rewarding. That's when we get to see the customers face to face. It's where we get people like really excited seeing our booth and stuff. And yeah, I just think that is really, really important and really keeps us passionate about what we're doing.
That's really cool to hear. Shout out to the Cosplay Society, because that's kind of what kickstarted this. Sorry, Laith, you were saying before?
Yeah. Sorry, I think circling back, because like the question at hand was the whole, like, if you're stuck at like a crossroads between what you want to pursue, right? I realized we didn't actually answer the question at hand. I think the main thing to think about, if you're like trying to decide between multiple different avenues, and they're all things you're really keen about, figure out which one excites you the most and also scares you the most, right? Because that's the one that you're really passionate about. If it both excites you and scares you, like, that's a good sign. And ultimately, you can try something, and if it fails, that's fine. You've learned something, right? Because even if you do something and it fails, you've learned something along the way that will then let you go into doing a different thing or trying that again with a different approach. So I think like people are like too scared of failure at the end of the day, but like you learn something really important from those experiences, right? And everything you learn will then give you something to take into your next job or into your next little business endeavor or whatever it may be.
I think it's a good approach there. That you said too is, if you fail, you can always go find another job. Like those jobs are always going to be there in some capacity. It might not be the same job you had last time, but something similar is going to always be there for you. And like Shin said, give it a month. Just give it a month. And if it works, give it another month and just kind of see how it goes from there. So I think that's a really good approach to it too, I think. It doesn't have to be, it's if I'm going all in on this thing, I have to like give up everything and there's no going, but like you can always go back to. And I always keep this in the back of my head too. One of my very first jobs was, again, stacking shelves at Woolies. And the second I walked away, I was like, look, I could always come back here. I don't think it's ever going to be something that, is not going to be available. Just something similar. So that's a good way of picking it and a good way of kind of approaching it, I think. Just 1 month at a time. Just very small steps. I think that's really cool to see and it's good to hear. But you brought up a really good point too about community. And I think that's the main reason why people, I think, either do cosplay for 2 years or they stick around for 20, is the people that you meet and the people that you end up hanging around will pretty much define if it's like, costumes is fun, but not for me. But you meet some cracking people who you only get to see, once every few months at cons, and you're like, wow, no, let's do it. Let's organize a group. Let's slide into the Discord DMs and see what happens from this interaction with this group. And that's obviously by the sounds of what you guys have cultivated or started to cultivate, not with just you and your business, but with the people in the Sydney cosplay community and starting to go around Australia now too. Is that something that you thought was going to be a big factor of the business's success, being part of the community, being so involved in it? Or was it something like, oh, hopefully we can get some orders here and there? Like, are they all repeat customers, or are they new ones coming in? What's kind of the situation for you guys with the community?
It's always a surprise to people, but the majority of our orders are actually international.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, what, like 20% is probably Australian?
Really?
And then, yeah, like it's quite a big margin.
That's grown this year.
Yeah.
Like previously, Australia would have been like maybe 10% of our overall orders.
Like obviously initially it was all Australian.
Yeah.
But it grew very, very rapidly to be skewed to the international market.
Yeah.
And I think that's mainly just because like Australia's cosplay community is in comparison to other countries like the US, it's quite small. And it's still very much growing. And I think that's always something I've been very aware of and something I really wanted to like help. Right. So we started sponsoring events last year, and I reached out to Comic Gong, the Wollongong Library run convention. Yeah. It's a single day. It's essentially like a little family fun day with an artist alley and a cosplay comp on the side.
Yeah.
Like it's really cute, really fun, and just a really good time. And I was like, if anyone needs help or needs anything like us, it'd be them. Right. So that's really what made me start like thinking about reaching out to events and things like that. And then from there, we reached out to Smash kind of like on a whim, and just expected nothing from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly when we reach out to people or events, it's the smaller ones because we really just want to see the cosplay community grow in Australia.
And then you said Smash, the smaller ones.
Well, Smash was like us having the audacity. Right.
Look, I think you're not going to know until you ask. I mean, you guys reached out to me, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" Yeah.
We started challenging ourselves to do lately is have the audacity, which is just meaning having the guts to ask.
Yeah.
People would be like, the reason we are here today is because we had the audacity to email Jeremy.
Oh, I think not the audacity. I feel privileged myself. It's like, oh, they're reaching out to me. That's pretty cool.
But like it comes back to like the imposter syndrome, right?
It does.
So you're here being like, these guys have been all around Australia. You've seen their name everywhere, and we're like, have they? Like,
you have. Look,
we're still very much getting used to like the idea of being known.
How does that feel? How does it feel? Like the Illustris cosplay models. The Illustris. It's gonna be a brand that's like Gucci for cosplay. Or like you watch. It's going to be like, wow, oh my god, that's like Illustris branded. Oh my god, you could afford that. So,
no, we never want to get to that stage because if we're always going out for accessibility,
yeah,
that's too far.
We can't be Gucci.
Exactly.
We got to be like Anko brand.
Yeah.
Look, Anko has pulled me through some dark times, all right?
So. Exactly.
What's kind of your plans going forward? Because at this point, I did see you guys, going at Smash. You said Comic-Con, even the Brisbane one, CMC, you guys sponsored that one, which I thought was really cool. Do you guys have plans for PAX or to kind of grow from here, employ your neighbors, employ your cats? Like, what's kind of next for you guys?
Yeah. So I think ultimately, like, we want to be involved with more events, and we've got the cogs turning for next year already. And like PAX is a weird one because they don't have an artist alley.
They're more like enterprise level.
Yeah,
because they're game dev focused, right?
Yeah.
So it's a like if we have a space there, maybe like eventually it could fit. But we like keeping PAX as a little holiday.
That's cool.
Because working every single con is exhausting.
Yeah,
so
I get you.
Having one that we can just go and vibe at, and PAX is a really good one because it's just a holiday with all of our friends in Melbourne.
It's great.
But we're unfortunately missing PAX this year. But we're going to be going to Brisnova in November instead.
Missing PAX or Brisnova. I've never thought of anyone who's that's my preference.
Well, we didn't mix packs for Brisbane. It's more like a substitution, right? We couldn't go to packs, so we're like, let's try and table at a con in Brisbane. Because we did Adelaide. We drove to Adelaide, so we feel unstoppable with how far we can drive.
Nice.
So we're gonna come up to Brisbane in November and just see how it goes. Because we've got some friends up there that have been wanting us to come up for a while, and I think it'd be a nice little thing to see if interstate cons are viable. For us.
Yeah. Have you guys been to Brisbane before, or?
I've got family up there, so I've been a couple of times.
First time for Shin. We just got a big new bridge that just got built, so you can walk across it. At the other side is the casino. So.
No, I think I've been on holiday, briefly, but not for any con.
You grew up in Queensland.
I grew up in Rockhampton.
Yeah.
Rocky's a completely different ball game to Brisbane, let me tell you. Interesting. Okay. Do you guys...
we want to try and do more interstate stuff. Like, a dream would be to do Perth at some stage. That'd be really fun to do. Not driving, of course.
Yeah, Pixel Expo was just last weekend, actually. So
yeah. That's the reason why we want to go, because it seemed really, really fun.
If you don't mind me asking, especially for interstate things, you guys obviously will be tabling. What, for yourself as a business that does commissions, is the goal for going to interstate cons and having a table? Because you're obviously not going to be selling too many, like, I was like, let's print out like 10 Master Swords, a few shields and a tree branch or something, and we'll sell those at a con. But what's kind of the goal there? Is it just to spread like awareness, or?
When we started tabling, especially tabling at Smash as well, we've noticed like a slow uptick in interstate cosplayers coming to our table and being really keen to buy things, but then being like, oh, it won't fit in my suitcase.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously the solution there is figure out how to make our props collapsible so they can fit in suitcase.
I'm getting there.
Which we've been prototyping yesterday.
Yep.
Or B, taking the props to them.
I see. Yep.
That's mostly what drove us to be like, okay, we should try. We never considered Adelaide to be the first one we'd ever do.
Yep.
Considering it's like the furthest away except for Perth. But AvCon approached us with a really, really good opportunity this year. And it was funny because we talked to one of our friends in Sydney who was originally from Adelaide, and they'd been encouraging us to do AvCon, and we were like, oh, it's really close to Smash, so we won't do it this year.
Yep.
And then AvCon are like, do y'all want to come?
You want to come join AvCon?
Yeah.
Okay. Guess we're going to Adelaide.
That's fun. So what did you guys do at the booth of the store? Was it just talk to people and say, oh, this is what we do?
We brought stock. We brought our full normal like stock that we bring to Sydney.
Which all the stuff that fits in a suitcase, I'm assuming.
No. We drove.
Oh, so you did print out 10 Master Swords, a couple of shields, and a branch.
You don't want to see the back of our car when we're bumping in. Like, we got things ratchet strapped to the sides. We got things on the roof. Like, it's pretty intense.
Wow.
So we have a RAV4, so the back seats can completely come out.
Yeah.
So it's like a fan afterwards. And from the back of our chairs to the back of the boot
is just full of stuff.
Random question. What's like the top 3 bestsellers on your store?
At the moment is the Cult of the Lamb.
Oh yeah,
the Cult
of the Lamb is going off because of the Raven stuff they're doing at PAX this year.
But also a lot of international, so I think it's also like for Halloween. Everyone's being Cult of the Lamb this year.
I think the Gale stuff is probably one of the best.
Really?
Gale from Baldur's Gate 3.
His staff. They're just
his staff
it's popping off. Wow, okay. And number 3.
Like, we thought Shadowheart and Astarion would be really popular. Shadowheart has, like, her windows where we'll just have, like, the Shadowheart weeks. Astarion, not so much. Very surprised. But Gale was the sleeper.
Yeah.
Sleeper. Interesting. Just for anyone listening in as well, because obviously you want to make this accessible to people, but you also have to make a profit so you can keep the business going. So for anyone listening in, again, you've never heard of Illustris, you've been living under a rock. But for anyone kind of listening in, what would be a general price point for this? Let's say a small accessory, a weapon like a knife or something, like a big staff or a big gun or something, and a custom commission. What kind of price points do you kind of put those at?
Yeah, so our accessories, depending on the size, range from like if it's just a little buckle, could be like $15-$20.
Yep.
and they go up to about like 110 for the really, really big kits, like
Yep.
the Zelda
Child.
tabard, the child accessory kits.
Yep.
Because you got a lot of dangly things and stuff.
Genshin kits get wild.
Yeah, so it ranges from about like $20 to about 110.
Yep.
For like daggers and stuff, they can be around like 40 or 50. And then your swords and stuff are between like 75 to 220.
Right.
Depending on the size, like how likely it is to fail on the printer and all of this stuff, because that's another aspect of it. And then our big great swords like the Cloudbuster sword and the Royal Claymore from Zelda, they range between like 150 to like 320.
Yeah, right. Okay, so it's still...
they do get pricey.
No, absolutely, because there's obviously, like you said, a lot of work, a lot of time that goes into it, so it does require a specialist like yourself to get the work done. So, no, that's cool, because... You know, in my brain, I'm like, okay, if I had to guess what this would be, I'm assuming it would be, you know, under 100 for the trinkets, hopefully under 100 for the weapons, but obviously depending. And you guys obviously do custom commissions too, depending on if it's something you can do?
Yeah. So, we kind of have, like, different types of commissions, right?
Yeah.
So, because we sell all the 3D models on our website as well. So if you have a printer at home, you can just buy the file and print it yourself.
Yep.
And that's of course a lot cheaper. That's like between $10 and $30 for the files.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're commissioning us for files, obviously modeling, depending on the thing, can get quite complex. So we have a base rate of $50 for 3D modeling. So like any small things, if it's like really small, just one buckle, generally we'll be like, okay, like 20.
Yeah, of course.
We'll ignore the minimum because that's
so small.
5 minutes work, right? But then, so I think probably the most expensive model I've done this year was $275.
What was that for? What kind of prop?
That was from Final Fantasy 14. So
Final Fantasy, enough said. That's all you got to say. Like,
yeah, they get pretty whack. The more detail and stuff it has, the more days it's going to take me to model, the more we will charge. So like modeling commissions can be quite cheap or they can get quite pricey.
Yeah.
And then, so if you're commissioning us something we don't already have, you will get the modeling fee. And then once that model is done, we can then calculate the printing fee.
Yeah, of course.
Because we can't figure that out until the model is done.
That's
so you
fair.
kind of pay in phases, right?
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
And then above that, we have the printing commissions, where if it's a file you already have that you just want us to chuck on the printers, we will do that. And that's based on like material cost, electricity, failure rate, based on how weird the model looks. Because other, like, when we talk about accessibility in 3D printing, some of the free files you get online aren't exactly made efficiently for 3D printing.
Yep.
Right.
The quality range is pretty big.
Pretty big.
You get some really, really good, like well-designed files, and you can get some ones that
interesting.
Like, how did you think of splitting this up? Like this makes no sense.
Oh dear.
So the example I always give is that we had a file for an accessory kit, and it had two separate pieces in the file.
Saved in the same file.
The same piece. One was on the zero line.
Yep.
One was 10 mil above.
Why?
And because they're one object, you couldn't move it down.
Yeah.
So it's just like that. It makes no sense, right?
You know what? I reckon they had a book or something they just placed in that extra spot because, I don't know, the table was 10 mil higher or something. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, you could get issues like that.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it's just like figuring out, like, it's just the extra time to figure out how this thing's meant to print. And also, if we need to do any edits to it, if we need to cut it down further, if we need to add rod holes to it, because we're like, this is a sword that's all balancing on one 5 mil peg that's not going to survive upon.
Yeah.
Let's edit that to be stronger for you. So there's additional work that sometimes goes into files that people provide us.
And because people don't know, right? If people don't 3D print themselves,
it's like, I just bought this file.
So there's that. And then we also do the finished and painted commissions, which can be all three. So we do the modeling, we do the printing, and then we finish them up and ship them to you full. Generally,
Crazy.
yeah,
That's crazy.
they're quite a bit more. It
Yeah.
really depends then on the complexity of the paint job as well.
Yeah.
If you've got like, if it's a Genshin prop that's got 5 different gradients on it, it's gonna cost more.
It's going to cost you.
than, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know. I've now made tools to make the pricing of all of that stuff more consistent and easier for us.
Rather than just like, I'm going to guess it's that much.
Yeah.
I was pricing commissions on vibes for far too long.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
allowed to do it anymore.
Not anymore. But yeah, your finished and painted commissions can range from between $500 up to $1,000 plus.
Cool. That's nice.
All depending on various factors.
Well, look, it sounds like you guys are completely in your element now, which is really cool to see. You've been running a successful business for 18 months or more now, and it's still continuing, which is something to be congratulated for. So honestly, I'm proud of you. I hope you're proud of yourselves, because that's fantastic. But for anyone listening in who has endeavors, maybe they don't want to do 3D printing, maybe they've got a different business in mind, but you guys have both kind of been through the ups and downs of both the job roller coaster, the mental roller coaster, the can I do this, the sister roller coaster, the parents roller coaster. But for anyone kind of facing a similar situation where they're thinking, look, this is something I want to dive into, or maybe I want to start a business for myself, or apart from the just do it advice, what kind of insights would you have for someone like that who's kind of aspiring to, kick their 9 to 5 and start a passion business, make it something real? What kind of insights or advice would you have for someone like that?
Start it as a hobby, and then see where it grows. Slowly add more fuel to the fire as you need. There is a lot of respect into jumping headfirst into it, but not everyone has the kind of money to be able to do that, right? Because if you do have money, it's a lot easier to jump into something like that because you have a little bit of a buffer that you can do. But this is life. We don't all have that.
Yeah.
So I think starting it as a hobby and then slowly building it up as it grows until you hit that point where you're like, oh, I think I need to drop down to a casual job now, not a full-time job. Drop my actual 9 to 5 to a casual job, and then slowly peel into it. And because by that point you're
established.
You're onto a winner. If you've gotten to the point where you can drop your 9 to 5 to a casual job, you're like, okay, this is growing at a steady enough pace to eventually move into something full time. Yeah. Or will you stay as a casual thing and just give you extra money on the side, right?
Good way to put it. It doesn't have to become a full time thing. It can just be a side hustle if you like it that way.
Yeah.
Good thoughts. Any thoughts, Shin?
I guess my advice is essentially what was my New Year's resolution this year, which is the what's the worst that can happen hammer. So every time I get doubts or I'm like, I really want to do this, but I'm scared. Bam, what's the worst that can happen? And generally, the worst that can happen isn't terrible, right? Or you identify what the worst is that can happen and you can figure out solutions for if that does happen, right? But I guess like ultimately, I know you said no advice that's just like, just do it.
Yeah.
But
just do it.
I mean, I think it's not so much just do it, but it's like start it.
Yeah,
right?
Just start
something.
Make cool things.
Have the audacity to put your name out there and ask for opportunities. Like, I know being on the internet, it may look like a lot of people are just getting handed things.
Yep.
But generally, people behind their social media front are reaching out and putting themselves out there. And I know it's scary, but sometimes you can hope people will know who you are when you just email them, like Jeremy.
Yep.
But sometimes they're not going to know who you are unless you tell them.
Yeah.
So yeah, just reach out, start something, give it a go. What's the worst that can happen?
I love that. Great advice from you guys. I appreciate that. Just give it a month. What's the worst that can happen? Just do it on the side as a hobby. I love that. That's really cool. But other than that, this hour has flown by. But how do you feel? Was this your first podcast? Is this you done it before?
Yeah. This was the first podcast.
How's it feel? You want to do it again sometime?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm good at yapping.
Cool. I'd love to get an update from you guys in 6 months to a year. Just be like, oh, how's life? What's it been up to? It's a good vibe.
We've got so many plans of where we want this to go and how we want it to grow in the future. But it's all just like one step at a time. Like we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
No rush. Enjoy the journey. Like this is fun.
Exactly.
That's cool. And for anyone who's wanting to find you guys, either for a commission or they just want to follow your own journey as well, whereabouts on the internet can we find you?
So we're on Facebook, Instagram mostly is where we're most active. We're on Twitter, we're on Etsy, but our website is cheaper because Etsy has fees. Yeah. Our website also has free worldwide shipping and a bunch of resources and things to help you A, finish and paint the kits and stuff you get from us, and B, gather supplies to be able to do so. So we have a lot on our website aside from just the stuff you can buy from us as well. And we have a Discord server that our website will bully you to join.
That's the community, guys. We talked about community before, how important that is. Get in there. Jump in. I'll put all of those links in the description below this video, this podcast, whatever you're listening to or wherever you're listening from. But apart from that, thank you guys very much for joining me. This has been a wonderful, wonderful hour. Thank you for being the episode 50. So this is like the end of the season. You guys jumped on at the right time. And for everyone who has listened in again, thank you so much for your support. We will talk to you again very soon. I hope you're excited for what's to come. I hope you're excited for what is in the future for Illustris as well. But that's the end of this episode. So we'll see you next time. Thank you again for joining, guys. And this is where we wave at the camera and say bye. Bye.
Yeah.